welcome everybody. I'm glad to have you all this morning attending this roundtable about the place of open source in the virtual data center. So I will call the panelists to join us if you wish. ATAYA is of course already there, so Nicolas AUBE is now joining us. He is the founder and CEO of Celeste, which owns the famous Marilyn data center in the eastern part of Paris. Then joining us Marc, TRIBOULET, the CEO of Nonstop Systems, which is a system integrator, we could say. He will tell us exactly about the company. Rani, HALIMI, welcome. You are the lead cloud computing architect from Bull, and at least Denis Caramel will join us. Good morning, Denis. Denis, as you know, is the CEO of Activion and one of the award winner of yesterday's. So welcome, everybody. Yesterday we spoke about three challenges, main challenges for open source. That was standards, innovation, and sovereignty. Today, one more challenge is to define the virtual data center, or is it the next generation data center? We'll see that together. We'll, all of us read and learn about VLANs, about VDisk, virtual disk, virtual CPU, VMs. What exactly is a virtual data center? Is it only an administration problem or issue? How important is it for our business and IT services? Those are a few questions that we'll see together. And to sum up this issue, I'm glad to introduce ATAYA again. You've spoken recently about countries under pressure or under tension, like Lebanon. So having a virtual data center, what could be an opportunity for your country?
In the scope of work of the e-government portal, we have also an e-government data center version 1. In order to have this first data center, the architecture is based on virtualization, complete virtualization, in order to extend for other data centers and disaster recovery and so on. We need an extensible architecture for hardware and for software. The virtualization is very important because we start with about 30 e-services, but we are planned to have 500 e-services. Then the virtualization, the virtual data center is very important to have a scalable data center to integrate future e-services for this project.
So it's scalability issue and also disaster recovery plan. And Nicolas, yes. Yes.
Just Mr. ATAYA, one question. Are you ready to have your data in outside of Lebanon, or do you choose to have your data only in Lebanon?
For the moment, it will be in Lebanon. The decision to have governmental data outside the country, I think, should be decided by the Council of Ministers. It's an important decision. We start thinking about how we can have a private cloud for the Lebanese government. But we have maybe a cultural problem. You know, for the moment, some administrations say, if I don't have my own server in my own premises, and I have my data in my own server, then it doesn't belong to me. Then we have also to make some awareness about security could be, and confidentiality, integrity of information could be decentralized This is also very, very important, at least in emergent countries. With the ICT level is not so advanced as maybe different other countries.
Nicolas, the importance of for data center, physical data center, maybe having several customers, of course, with sharing infrastructure, sharing also services. So, is the notion of class of services important now?
Yes, of course. We already know what is data center. It's a brick and mortar data center. We can see this data center, and you have several key aspects with security, access to the data center itself. And now we are talking about virtual data center, which is mainly the contrary of brick and mortar data center. So the point is to present that offer to customers, either public customers, either private ones, and they accept to put their data in a place that they don't know, basically. Mm-hmm. So you must have levels of service, or maybe class of service, or type of maybe areas, regions in your virtual data centers where you can guarantee where the data is. And these type of questions are very important for governments, because, for example, with the Nuage project, we try to make an offer for public services in France, but we are sure that the administration wants to know where the data is. So these kind of aspects are very strong in the virtual data center projects.
Yeah, speaking about Nuage, Marc, you will probably help us understand what is exactly what inside the virtual data center. In fact, is it yet another virtualization layer, Marc, over the existing one? How do you see it from your point of view?
Maybe I can introduce Nuage in a few words.
Sure.
So Nuage is a consortium of 7 small companies which have decided to establish a collaborative way to make research. And we are followed and supported by the public research, by the 2 teams of the ALIP6 laboratories. The main goal of Nuage was to adapt the cloud concept to the French reality.
Of small and medium size,
yeah, exactly.
Administration.
We have more than 3 million very small companies. And okay, cloud is a major opportunity for those companies, but it's a major risk too. Because, as Nicolas said, data goes everywhere. So they can. You have the problem is, okay, or you consider all your data are public, and no way, or you consider your data are a part of the value of your company. If you are on this, and we have based our strategy on this. So if we want to allow small companies to know where the data are, as they don't have the technical level to follow them, we must reconsider the data center as a global virtual data center, and localize data close to the user.
As close as possible.
As close as possible.
Dennis has a reaction.
Yes, I wanted to get back to your question about is VDC, virtual data center, a new virtualization layer. To my understanding, I think there are two aspects into a VDC. The first one, which is a delegation of administrative right, And the second one is more technical, which is problems of allocation of resources. So what people do with VDC, and this is the case in VMware, vDirector, vCloud, and also in OpenStack with, I think, something called project, which you can delegate, right, is that you will set apart a set of resources, virtual machine, networking, memory, storage, and you will decide that this is a virtual data center. And the most important aspect about that is the fact that you delegate the administration right to somebody else. So you turn something which is a big data center with virtualization into something that you cut in pieces and you give to somebody else into your organization to administrate. So it can be, of course, in your administration, but it can also be to some customer in the case of a hosting company. So this is the first aspect. Maybe we move on to the second one, because my company is doing something for it, which is the automation and the dynamic aspect of allocation.
Maybe later, yes. Thank you, Denis, for this clarification. On your opinion, does a VDC only requires one physical data center, or is it a mesh network of data centers? For instance, I know one of your customer at Celeste is working on the healthcare industry and has two separate sites.
Yes, I think if we imagine that virtual data center is only one data center with virtualization, maybe it's not. I think it's
just part of the image.
It reduces the interest of the project. I think if you can do virtualization in the data center, then you must use several data centers to have resilience, to have maybe you can have several climates. When it's cold, you use free cooling. When it's hot, you don't. Or when there is a disaster, you can recover. So, I mean, one of the benefits of virtualization obviously is to be in several places. So
and having a full redundancy of everything on both places or on several data centers.
And then comes the question of interoperability. And you talk about one of our customers, which is Capsule, which is a medical company in the US and in France, in Europe, and they need to address. They provide tools for hospitals. I mean, you can put the patient data on the cloud for the hospitals. So they needed to be in several data centers, in several places, in several continents, and they chose our data center, Marine data center, but other ones in the US to be resilient, and we had to be compatible each other. So I think maybe we created a virtual data center between them and us. We didn't know them before, but we could build a virtual data center between the different partners.
It's interesting to see what was the requirements to build this virtual data center with new partners.
Basically, the requirements were to have a strong network. That was the
with encryption, probably
fiber optics.
Encryption technologies, because it's sensible.
Actually, it was not encrypted. It was just private. We had only one layer 2 network, Ethernet network. So it's total private, and so it's not encrypted for this data. And that was the first requirement. And the second one was, the SLA of the data center and the type of servers we provide.
So also a monitoring system to provide the right...
Monitoring system, monitoring, in case of a crash, the time to repair, and this type of things.
Rani, HALIMI, we saw that there are multiple usage already for VDC. Is it one point to get IaaS, but also platform as a service on the same platform? Is it one of the goals of the virtual data center?
Yes, but if you take a step back and look at the technological aspect, if we speak about virtual data center, we have a missing piece right now, because a data center is composed of servers, storage, but also network. Virtualization in terms of servers has more than 10 years. In terms of storage, we started to virtualize maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but so far we don't have a real virtualization in terms of networking.
We spoke about VLAN and VPNs, but that's not in the virtual data center.
It's not really a virtualization, because virtualization means that you have an abstraction in terms of addressing.
So it's changing now with SDN?
Yeah, the next wave is the software-defined networking that will allow us to have a real and actual data center, actual virtual data center. We speak about a mesh of small data center. We cannot move your workload between the different data center because you have an IP addressing that is monolithic and inflexible. Mm-hmm. And I think that we will have an actual virtual data center once the software-defined networking attain a certain level of maturity.
Yes, and when do you expect this maturity to come?
Software-defined networking started just maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's coming. It's the next wave of technological component, and I think in terms of maturity, maybe next year or maybe 18 months to have something.
Thanks to Rani, we understand that it's an emerging virtual data center that we are facing at the moment. And what would be the main benefits for corporations and for administration? Is it the actual recovery plans that will evolve to continuity, to global application and workload movement with maybe more strategic application that needs those continuity? What do you think?
Just a question before, what kind of technologies do you expect to emerge in software-defined networking?
Today we have a foundation which is OpenFlow. Software-defined networking, it's not equal to OpenFlow, but I think that OpenFlow will be the right foundation to build an SDN offering.
Thank you. Yeah, we see a lot of things coming. I think it will be really the next challenge, but there is another challenge which is coming just in a few. Which is energy. It's
energy administration.
Virtualization. We are
virtualization.
Actually working in the virtualization of all the power. Main issues in data center will be the power, definitively. And so
the goal. What the goal is here?
Sorry?
To move the workloads where the energy is at the lower cost.
Exactly. And this is the reason why all the actors are running today to virtualize all the data centers in order to manage 2 different problems. The first is a disaster. We see in US than when they have power issues, whatever the situation is, it's a global nightmare for the cloud users. And basically what we need to be able to do is to move full data center very, very fast. And this is the goal of Nuage. The goal of Nuage, basically, one of the goals of Nuage is to be able to consider a data center as, okay, we can lose a data center.
Right. Dennis, maybe we have another plans for virtual data center, not only virtualizing the central sites, but also using all the PCs in the company's offices.
Yes, so, well, this is something well known and that came with grid computing, but the pressure is now being so strong on IT cost, on energy consumption, that is really becoming a useful solution now for companies. And this brings a platform which is to be dynamic and with heterogeneous resources. And just to get back to VDC, well, if you think about it, virtualization is about global management of data center plus isolation, right? I mean, a strong aspect of virtualization is that you can share physical resources without the problem of having a different application running on the same machine. So isolation is something very strong in cloud computing in general. And now what we are talking about with VDC is the fact that you are turning off a global allocation of a data center into something which is statically allocated to somebody, which does not seem very right in a sense that you are making yourself in a position where you turn to static allocation to some people, which is in some way good because you turn down administrative right to somebody else. But you are losing a little bit of dynamicity. And if we remember everything that was said yesterday, elasticity is a key point of application. So if you have your VDC, you might be a little bit tight into your VDC. So I think that we will get very strongly into the problem of dynamic allocation of resources and to have a way to dynamically allocate resources to people. And I would take the analogy of airline company. When you do seat management, the best way to do yield management to optimize the way the money you get is to actually sell more seats that you have in a plane, right? And you do overbooking of your resources, and then you manage that with somebody that we know in IT, which is quality of service. If you have an expensive ticket, you will never be denied to get on a seat. If you have a cheap ticket, you might get off the plane. So this is quality of service for global management of data center in cloud computing.
Thank you, Dennis. We see a little bit more precisely what there is behind this VDC. Now, speaking about open source technologies, I think it's interesting to see what are the open source bricks that could fit into this new design of virtual data centers. What do we need exactly? Is it a distributed file system? Do we need more cloud brokers like we saw compatible one yesterday, or more monitoring system? What is the missing pieces? You mentioned SDN. Do you know about, for instance, open flow, open software initiatives?
Maybe just to...
yes, ATAYA will.
I would like to mention maybe a dimension which is very important for us.
As a user?
Is the hosting of data and information, maybe especially public, for public data or public information. The data should be secured and should be completely confidential. How it's guaranteed with the virtual data center, even if there is different locations and different, which it should be, I think, looked at a black box. I have some information which are stored and hosted in a virtual data center somewhere. This is a very important dimension, at least for the public administration, I think for also private companies. And is there some experience about data coming from country and stored in another country? It's important for me to know also if you have some information about that.
Outsourcing outside the country, yes. It's a
Maybe I can just tell that, to my opinion, it's important that your data is in your country. I think it's the case in France too. The public companies and also private companies also want their data to be in their country. That doesn't mean that the data should be in only one place. It can be in several places, but we see that the place where the data is, I mean, legally matters, really matters. So that's why we with the Nuage project, we work to locate the data in France, and we know that several cloud providers here in Europe or in France offer to host data in other countries, and we know that it's something that is not in favor of cloud adoption in France.
To answer to your question on why open source, I think one of the main issues for if once the cloud goes to everywhere is confidence. And why we choose open source in Nuage is because we consider that the user, the final user, has the right to audit the code in order to be able to verify that, okay, the real problem, as I say, is that there is very few experts in the world which are already able to do that. But if the grant, if it's a problem of right, if you grant the right to the user, he will be able, if there is any problem, any trouble at a moment, it will be able to do that. And so confidence, truth is really the matter. And open source, I think this is the way why so much governments are looking about open source, even if there is a lot of commercial solutions which are really perfect, really. But main issue now is confidence, and because there is legal aspect, because there is economical aspect, because there is social aspects which flow with the data.
Mm-hmm. Rani, do you agree with this? Having open source experts in every layers that you need to build this VDC?
Yeah, I think that it's a requirement to have experts at each layer, and I think that confidence in terms of open source is a natural thing compared to commercial off-the-shelf product.
All right, well, it's probably a little bit early to get use cases of VDC because as you've mentioned, it's an emerging virtual data center, but do we have lessons already learned from these trials or proof of concepts that we can speak about?
Okay, I get the point. We are looking, what we are doing right now, it's laboratory, really. We have connected the two first data centers, we are improving our technologies, placing, and we are looking about partners. Basically what we are expecting now, it's creating use case. The first use case is based on .river. So it's...
on data?
It's on .river, which is a small company which is a partner of Nuage, and which creates virtual desktop. So we have taken this case in order to implement the technology and to create a proof of concept. But basically, what we are looking right now is opening the test bed from Nuage to a major or other companies in order to get
feedbacks.
Feedbacks.
Dennis, one word on.
Yeah, a quick word about open source and non-open source. So, I mean, we have seen recently some strong reaction for proprietary vendors, yes. VMware, not to name it, which is very aggressive with its license model in order to counterattack, I would say, the open source penetration into the cloud computing arena. And one thing as a concrete usage that we are doing is to integrate open source stack like OpenStack and other framework with Proactive together with proprietary licenses like VMware solutions. At least it gives a choice to the people which already put their figure into the proprietary world. They can smoothly switch to an open source solution.
But they will have a mixed environment, and they could choose one time to move one module to an open source one.
Yes, and they can decide where to put their next investment in the platform.
So that's interesting, because in a virtual data center, Nicolas will help us probably on this. The capacity planning problem is duplicated now.
Well, actually, we have the capacity planning problem issue. I mean, for brick and mortar data centers or virtual data centers, but the fact to be virtual, I think it helps because we can choose several data centers, and the offer of the capacity planning is more important. So I think virtual data center answers the questions, answers the points of capacity planning in many cases. Mm-hmm. And just to answer to the former question about open source, in my opinion, I don't. Initially, I don't know if it's good to have open source or not. But what I see is in our company, in Celeste, we are 50 people, and all the tech engineers and the people I have, without, it's not, a corporate decision, but they all reject proprietary software, and they all, they deconstruct the proprietary bricks to put open source bricks. And you talk about OpenFlow. We don't have virtual network. We have a Cisco brick and mortar network, and they want to try these virtual network bricks. But that's true with OpenStack. That's true also with, as you said, storage. Distributed storage like object. Today we have proprietary clusters, and we want to have unlimited distributed storage in several places. And for that, our staff wants to choose open source.
Thank you, Nicolas. Thank you all our panel for those precisions. Thank you again. We can applaud them.